What's up, folks? Welcome to the Combat Fighting channel. In this video here, we're doing a fight interview with Edwin Dela Cruz. This is in promotion for a fight coming up that's going to happen in Seattle, Washington in 2 weeks, February 15th. It's going to be at Combat Arts Academy. This fight is the co-main event for the Muay Thai Fight Night 24. And the winner of this fight gets to fight for the heavyweight title on May 17th. So a lot is riding on this fight because I'm guessing all you guys want that belt and are hungry for it. And it's going to be a rematch, actually, because you fought the opponent, Alberto, last year, right? All right, that's cool. So Edwin, this is our first time really meeting. We only kind of talked a little bit with the mic setup. You're Filipino, and you're currently in Sacramento?
No, that's Alberta.
Alberta,
I'm
okay.
in Canada.
You're in Canada. Oh, where in Canada are you?
I'm in Vancouver.
You're in Vancouver. Cool, man. I got the background all wrong. So you're in Vancouver. I'm in Alberta. We're so close together.
Right.
Cool, man. So when did you move to Canada?
I'm born and raised in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I'm a prairie boy at heart, so I definitely I grew up in the cold, that's for sure. And then I moved out here in Vancouver in 2019.
Oh, you're similar to me. The same offset, kind of. I'm from Ontario, and then I moved to Alberta, so just a little bit less east in the movement, right?
Yeah.
So what brought you to Vancouver?
Had a really good job opportunity. I worked in sales for a long time. I worked for it was Samsung.
Oh, cool.
And it was a pretty cool job. Yeah. And then COVID happened and all this craziness happened, and now I'm fighting.
Yeah. I mean, COVID changed the world for everybody, right?
Right. That's right.
For me too. For the better, I think, in the end, because it was a bit of a struggle, but in the end, it's my life is probably better now. So you did that, right? And then COVID happened and it kind of switched up your career. Now, for fighting, was that in Winnipeg too, or did you start that recently in Vancouver?
Oh man, I don't even know where to start. Like the COVID messing everything up. Like maybe even Alberto probably told you a little bit about my story. Like it's kind of crazy.
I tried to avoid listening to your story. I saw that you had posted, and I was going to listen to it ahead of time, and I was like, that's going to ruin it for me, right? So I was like, no, I'll just wait because I'm meeting you soon. Might as well hear it straight from you.
It's not anything too crazy, but I'll definitely give you the summarized version. There wasn't much of a, I don't want to say there's no fighting scene. There's a really huge fighting scene in Winnipeg, Manitoba. A lot of great fighters out there, and we had fighters just like Joel Dirty Dirt Kid, Roland Delorme. All these guys went to UFC, right? The Milwaukee team guys up there who'd come up to Winnipeg to do their camp. So there's a fighting scene there. It's just Manitoba never had a sanction. So it's hard for amateurs or anyone to compete. So that we always had to go to Ontario. We always had to go to BC or Alberta, right? And if for a small family, it's pretty expensive to do these kinds of things, right? So, but anyway, moving forward, I started training Muay Thai since 2008, and before that I was in my dad taught me Sikaran. I was in Taekwondo, so I was in martial arts my whole life, but I didn't really have the ability, or not ability, but the chances to really compete or show my skills. I had my first Muay Thai bout in late 2018, almost 2019, right? And I was already 29 at the time. So at that point, I competed in Edmonton, and then I moved. I was married at the time. I moved to Vancouver, and I had to find a new gym. So that's where I found Pinnacle MMA, and I love them, and they've been super supportive, right? And then COVID happened, right? And so there's this whole span of not competing, right? And it's tough, right? And of course, in that time, I got divorced, and then I actually had COVID. I was in the hospital, intubated. I was in a coma for like 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah, dude, it was kind of crazy. Yeah, and then like it was kind of insane. I had a family member pass away. My dad had to have he had a stroke, and he had to have emergency heart surgery. So that was like really like it was really shocking to the family. But I mean, like things that you go through just make you a stronger person, right? It's definitely changed my perspective on life, changed my perspective on fighting, and like just how I want to do things, how I want to be every day, right? So yeah, man. And now here I am today. I have a new sales career. I run the Muay Thai program at our gym, and I love to compete because I want to prove to myself more so, and show my students that with hard work you can do anything.
Mm-hmm. I want to rewind a little bit, okay?
Sure, please.
Winnipeg. So
yeah,
do you know Dave Combat Arts?
Oh yeah.
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 There you go. Yeah. So he's one of the big. Have you ever done anything with him, or is that the gym you were at? What gym were you at in Winnipeg?
So in Winnipeg, I was much younger at the time. I was like 17,
mm-hmm.
and I was classmates with Dave.
Oh yeah, right.
Under the tutelage. I was under the tutelage of Giuseppe Donatelli. He's another like K1 Canadian champion, and he owns the gym Canadian Fighting Center, CFC, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in Winnipeg.
Yeah, in Winnipeg, great gym, right? He's a very strong-willed man. Like he's you don't want to get an argument with that guy. Like it's a really great gym, and all of us, like everyone in Winnipeg, has trained under him, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I met him in Airdrie in Alberta. He came down for
the
Nationals. That's what it was. Canadian Nationals. They came down.
Yes.
They had a whole team, and because it was shortly after the Ukraine war happened, a bulk of their guys were Ukrainian immigrants or refugees, I guess you can call them.
Yes.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. Those guys are tough, man. Those Ukrainian guys are tough, I tell you. Maybe they grew up in a different environment than us, but they're like naturally tougher because Canada's like a softer country, right? Like our life is good here compared to like every other places, right? So so let's go back to the present, what you were talking about earlier.
Sure.
So that was your Winnipeg times.
Small Canada.
Oh, and okay. Actually, I want to ask another thing. You said you dabbled in other martial arts. You're Filipino. Did you do any Filipino martial arts? You said you did, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. My dad taught me Sikaran artist.
Yeah. So how far did you go into that?
I mean, not too far. Like it's kind of like was part of my building blocks. So because there was no official school here, my dad just kind of taught me in the backyard, and then he threw me into Taekwondo.
Mm-hmm. So how effective is that? Okay, so I'm interested in this here because I teach my kids. I'm not a world champion boxer or anything like that, but I teach them the basics.
Sure.
I'm not trying to teach them how to be a world champion, but I'm trying to teach them how to defend themselves, with like a basic hook cross kind of thing, for basic footwork, stuff like that. I think it's okay. I mean, some people might say it's not, but I think it's pretty effective. For your dad, right? Was he like a master? What was his level?
Yeah, my dad's a black belt in Sikaran.
Okay.
Yeah,
so him teaching you personally, right?
Yeah.
How does that compare to like learning it from a coach at a gym?
Well, my dad is definitely like I love my dad. He's definitely not as skilled as my coaches are.
Mm-hmm.
However, at the time, being as young as I was, like of course my dad's like he's my first hero, right? He's my first coach. He's my first everything, and it meant a lot to me personally, right? Because that's where my love of martial arts grew from.
Mm-hmm.
It's my dad, right? And I just at the time I wanted to be just like my dad, right? Like I see my dad's trophies at home, like I want that, like that's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought like that was life's goal, right? But yeah, I mean, luckily my dad is fairly talented in that sport, and it taught me a lot of balance, and it taught me a lot of a lot of plyometrics and understanding footwork at such a young age, right? And knowing how to move your feet in a certain manner when you're when you're in your fight stance, it's crucial,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because like if you don't know how to move your feet, like you're gonna have a hard time fighting. And learning that at such a young age was definitely, I think, a key thing that played into all my sports growing up.
Mm-hmm. And I'm 43 right now.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 34.
Okay, so you're still part of the previous gen where if you do martial arts, you're almost invincible at school. Like now, it seems like every kid knows martial arts. It's like,
I guess so.
yeah, like
I
I'm
was part of
talking.
that group.
Yeah, like when I was growing up, it was like a weapon. I'm not saying it's not a weapon now, right? But like
Yeah.
when you talk to kids, they're like, "Oh, I'm in Muay Thai." I'm like, everyone's doing martial arts. What's going on at a young age? You know, which is great, right?
Yeah.
Which is amazing because when you do it and you grow up with it, your joints kind of develop differently. You know, your movements.
That's true. That is true. That is true. No, I did get that label as a kid because I did get in a fight in like grade 4, and I gave a kid a roundhouse kick to the face because he was annoying me. He threw a snowball at me, and I got so pissed off I kicked him in the face. And then all the kids were like, "Oh, Edwin does karate."
It's not karate, bro. It's taekwondo. But yeah, everyone says karate, right? It's kind of the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Okay, so let's fast forward again. Okay, fast forward.
Sure.
Now you're preparing for the fight coming up. It's a rematch. Sure. Well, assuming you're gonna win, it'll be a rematch, a redemption arc, I guess, or whatever you want to call it.
That's right.
But you are fighting a guy that has a decent amount of experience. Brandon.
I don't know how much experience. Yeah, I didn't really do too much research on it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So Hector, not Hector. Brandon Hecht. He's done some fights in Thailand. He did one fight in Thailand, so he has like one kind of different environment type fight.
Sure.
He's had some fights here, so it's not his first fight. He's a family man, so he just has to balance the time a bit. He looks like a strong guy. Like you look at him like as a person from the video, he's a strong guy. Like you guys both look like strong guys. So it's going to be some swings. You guys going to be swinging, I think.
Sure.
Going into the fight, right? What do you think your strengths are currently, and how do you think it's going to progress?
That is a good question. I saw some video on him, and there's not really I don't really study my opponent, to be honest with you. Like I kind of leave that up to my coach. But basically, I focus on what I need to do or what I can do well, and I think that my striking is probably better than his. Right? Him, like I heard he trains at a pretty good Muay Thai gym, and as though like I train Muay Thai as well. You know, I love to breathe, live and breathe Muay Thai, but I'm heavy into Dutch style kickboxing, and I do a lot of boxing as well. So, and I mix a lot of my styles a lot, and I can definitely guarantee you that this person's not as agile as I am. If you ask Alberto, if you ask any of my previous opponents, you ask RJ, you ask Liam, right? Like, I move like a lightweight.
Mm-hmm. And
I move my head a lot. Yeah.
And why do you think that is? Is it because you have the Taekwondo background, which is more movement based with the feet?
No, some because I come from an MMA gym, and I still use my Muay Thai styles, but the guys that I train with, like these guys are BFL champs, right? And these guys are going on to world stages, right? And so they're heavy into their boxing, and they're heavy into trying to get into double leg takedowns or single leg takedowns, and like we have not to toot our horn with our gym, but we have like world class wrestlers, world class boxers. Like these guys are great, and these guys are the ones that are beating my ass every week. So
yeah, it's nice to have those.
So if I can take a beating from them, I'm pretty sure I can take a punch.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so speaking to Brandon earlier, he likes to hover around 235.
Sure.
How about you? What's your comfortable prime weight?
So I fought Alberto at 227, and I was I was going down. I was trying to under, and then they asked me if I wanted to fight Brandon, and knowing that he's around 230 there, I was at 215, but now I'm up to 225.
Mm-hmm. And there's 2 more weeks before the fight, so heavyweights anything after 200. 2 weeks to the fight. Normally, guys are like cutting and stuff like that before the fight, but you're below his weight. So, are you still trying to put on weight to increase power?
No,
or
it wasn't intentional to put on weight or anything. Like I didn't focus on cutting or anything like that. I'm just like I'm eating comfortably to the point of where according to my training, right? I don't want to cut myself where I don't have enough energy. Like I want to feel full. I want to feel good. I want to feel energetic, right? When I'm in there, I don't want to feel bloated. I don't want to feel dehydrated. So the way that I'm training right now is I just want to keep myself hydrated.
Mm-hmm. You said you saw a couple of Brandon's fights. So based on the fights that you saw, right? How do you think he's gonna go at you? What do you think his strengths are and his strategy is going to be to take you down if he's going to do it?
He's probably going to try to blitz me. Looks like he has a nice left hook. Looks like he has, a nice inside kick, a nice low kick, right? Very tied style, stands up straight, right? I've played this game long enough that there's nothing that he can throw at me that I've never seen before. Mm-hmm. It's going to take more than one hit, right? Like, honestly, I went 5 rounds with Alberto, right? And Alberto is no slouch. Alberto, has 7 wins under his belt, something like that?
8 wins, 1 loss now?
Yeah. And, ask Alberto. He's felt my left hook, right? Like, he knows. He knows a hit. He probably won't tell you, but
he told me. He told me. He said you're a dog.
Yeah. Again, if anything, I'll guarantee from if those videos that I saw, the clips, because a lot of my students are showing, oh, yo, coach, this is your opponent, right? Everyone, I appreciate everyone's excited for me and whatnot, and everyone's showing me, if that's the level that what I'm going to see there, Brandon's not going to have a fun time.
Interesting. Cool.
Yeah.
Now, I want to ask you, earlier you said you're into Dutch kickboxing. You're really into that style. So can you break down the difference between Dutch kickboxing and normal kickboxing, I guess?
Well, Dutch style kickboxing, right? It's so the Dutch style they're definitely derived from a lot of the guys from Holland, and they're very heavy on their front stance. They're very pressure fighter styles. So you have guys like Cedric Doumbé, so guys like that, or that are in there. A lot of the Mike Miles guys, they're there. But for American style kickboxing, I found that it was kind of back in the days with the Jean-Claude Van Damme days, where it's more tempo karate, right? And they're kind of upright, and they use a lot of round kicks rather than low kicks, right? But Dutch style, I find that's a little more pressure style. They have a high guard, heavy on the front leg, left hook, low kicks. Yeah.
So why does that resonate more with you? Is it because of your body type? Is it because of the way you were raised in the Filipino arts?
No, it's just coming from the gym that I came from Canadian Fighting Center, right? And that was sort of our style, where a lot of us were pressure fighters, and me, I've always been the shorter guy in my fight for some reason, so I've always resulted to it's not the fact that I can't fight long. I'll fight long if I can. If I ever have an opponent that is actually my height or my size, or if I ever go down in weight, then I'll probably be of a longer stance. But I mean, I still like being the pressure. I like being in the pocket. I'll be in your face. I'll grind.
Mm-hmm. So basically, you prefer to be the pressure fighter. That's your preference, right? So I guess we can expect you to be swinging once the bell rings, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see it for sure.
Cool, man.
We'll be at front row seats.
Yeah, that's cool. So okay, now we have 2 weeks left, right?
Yeah, yeah,
For the event to happen, February 15th.
yeah.
Doors open at, I believe, 2 p.m. Fight start at 3 p.m.
Right.
What are your plans from here on out for the next 2 weeks?
I'm staying on camp. I was with my coach earlier. I did boxing earlier. I got sparring tomorrow. I think might be my last sparring tomorrow.
Mm.
I'll probably still do some light contact, but literally every day I'm training. When anytime that Brandon's sleeping or something, I'm in the gym. I'm training. Like I'm there. Like I live, eat, and breathe the gym, so I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't peer off the program, right? Like I don't go out. I don't do anything. I don't do drugs. Nothing. We just train.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you, like, for a lot of my lighter friends, they do leading up to the fight. It's more cutting and mobility exercises versus like
Right.
building weight and stuff, like muscle
Yeah.
mass and all that stuff. You're a heavyweight. Is
Yeah.
that different for you guys? Are you still like
Yeah,
doing weights and stuff?
absolutely. Yeah, typically when I fought at like 195 or 180, you definitely try to work your way out to the either a water cut method or and basically either start doing drinking a lot of water and other like 9-8 liters a day kind of thing, right? But in this case, I don't need to do that because there's no really weight to cut, right? The focus now is to stay limber, don't get injured, focus on breathing. So probably I'll still run. I don't run too excessively, right? Because I'm not training for a marathon. I'm training for a fight. So I'll probably do about like 3K runs, focus on my breathing, and work the bag work. Bag work is super important, right? So you want to visualize the fight. But I mean, all this stuff is textbook. Any gym will tell you that, right? There's no special sauce. That what's the quote you always say? The magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding, right? So you got to keep working.
That's nice. I like that. So, we got some time still. I want to ask more about the COVID times,
Sure.
the recovery time.
Yeah.
Right? You said you went to COVID. Everyone knows what that is, and you went into a 2-month coma.
Yeah, man, it was definitely. I'll give you the COVID story. The COVID story was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So it was late 2021, and my partner and I at the time, we were traveling and whatnot, and I just felt like I was short of breath. I eventually, I just couldn't breathe, so I headed out to the hospital, and they're like, "Hey, got a call a family member." I was like, "Sure," and I guess they asked permission to kind of put me under, and they're like, "Hey, here, breathe this," and I'm like, "Okay," and I passed out. I had the wildest dreams. I felt like I lived 10 years in my dreams. Whatever shit that they put me on, whatever drugs they had, I was on it. Like, it was crazy. But yeah, it got to the point where apparently my subconscious tried to escape the hospital and punched a nurse.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
and you're a fighter, so the nurse felt it.
Yeah, it was either like a fight or flight kind of thing, right? So when I did wake up after like all the drugs, when they woke me up and they took out the tubes and whatnot, I was handcuffed to the to the bed.
Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. Eventually, they took that off, and I was in my recovery ward. And in my recovery ward, it was crazy because I obviously I had atrophy, right? I lost a lot of muscle, I lost a lot of weight, and I hated being in my bed. Now, I'm not a person who likes to just sit around. I don't like that, and I didn't want to be on my phone. I didn't want to watch Netflix. God knows how long I was going to stay there and recover, right? And they say people stay there for like over a month just recovering, right? And I'm like, no way, like screw that. And the motivator that got me out of my bed was because I had to use the bathroom or something like that, and of course I was in a nurse gown, and this cute nurse comes out, right? And of course she's helping me, and of course there's my bare ass, and she's wiping my butt. I'm like, oh my god, and this girl's like my age too, right? So I was like, no, like why? Like why, right?
Yes,
So
why?
anyway, I didn't want that to ever happen again. So anytime I wanted to use the bathroom, like I forced myself, I got myself up, even though like I had to like sort of learn how to walk again, right? And eventually that turned into me doing push-ups on the wall to me doing shadow boxing at the window. And then it was a funny thing, my physio nurse came in with the walker, and I'm at the window like this. And then my neighbor, the guy in the other bed beside me, was like, "Nurse, this guy's crazy. All he does is fucking work out."
He is crazy though. Are you a bit crazy? Do you think you're a bit crazy as an individual?
I think you have to be, honestly, right? Like,
you're a fighter, right? I mean, you guys are a little bit.
But I mean, like, I don't want to be in the hospital, man. I don't want to stay there. And like, I think like as an athlete, like you don't want to feel weak. Like you hate feeling weak. Like you're so used to having such strength, and then of course, like it was just muscle memory. You go back into these things. You're like, okay, if it's not this, you gotta start small. And I was just holding like a milk jug, right? Like just doing that.
Yeah, building on the micro muscles, I guess you have to build back.
Yeah.
First.
Yeah. And it got to a point where it was super inspiring for them, and for a little bit I was doing post-COVID webinars, talking to other people who went through the same who was in the ICU as well. So some of them may have felt a little bit more emotional or scarred from it. So I'll be there and I kind of help them and walk them through it and say, hey, I went through it too. You're going to be okay, kind of thing. So I'm volunteered to do that sometimes too.
Mm-hmm. I have a few more questions if you're okay with it.
Yeah, please.
So
yeah.
I haven't been in a coma before, but I've had some family members in a coma. I've read about comas because of that. There have been stories where people have lived like an entire life in their bed. Like in their dreams, they married another wife. They had children. They woke up crying because they're like, what? That was fake? Like actually has happened? And their real wife is sitting there. You're like, that kind of thing has happened. And you're saying you had the most vivid dreams, right?
Yep.
Out of all the dreams that you remember, right? Can you give me one or two of the highlights of like what a vivid coma dream would be?
Okay, I got two for you.
Cool.
So one, I'll tell about myself, and the other one is about a friend of mine. So in my dream, for whatever reason, it's almost like I knew I was going to the hospital or whichever. And the hospital I was in was called the Royal Columbia, right? And for some reason in my dream, I thought we were going to Columbia, right? And so I was already dreaming of the hospital there, right? And for some reason, I felt that everyone in the hospital was like lying to me. Like everyone was just being fake and just lying to me. I'm just on edge. And I could see that there's this other nurse back there, like trying to help me escape. And the whole time I was trying to escape, and I thought it was so real. Like I thought like I was really there. I really thought that I was trying to escape. And I guess that was probably the part where I was trying to physically escape. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. And like, and I was trying, they were trying to tell me like, oh yeah, you can talk to your family. They showed me an iPad with like my family, right? I'm like, no, you guys are fucking lying to me. That's a video recording, right? I'm like, I don't know. It was just crazy.
Okay, I want to ask about the setting here. So you're at that hospital, which your brain kind of saw before you went out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did it look like the current hospital, or was it some other hospital that manifested in your head?
No, it was another hospital that manifested in my head. Like it's just all the these things that are around that like your imagination goes amok, right? Like, it just goes wild, right? Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
However, I will tell you about my friend though.
Okay.
I got introduced to him from my ex-wife because he went through the same thing. He's another fighter, local here, His name is Vincent Lee, and he was in the coma longer than I was.
Wow. Okay.
Right? And basically, he told me that he met his dad in his dreams, and his dad has passed away.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and he was just like, it was so like crazy for him, because he's like, yeah, my dad talked to me, told me I was gonna be okay, everything's gonna be okay, and I'm like, oh, like, whoa, man, that's crazy. And Vince is actually the one who helped me through my recovery when I got out.
Mm-hmm. Do you watch? Are you a fan of anime? Naruto.
Yeah, of course.
Did you watch Naruto, the pain arc? Kakashi died, met his dad. This is what I'm thinking here in my head. That kind of scenario.
Yeah, very similar. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's wild. Like that's actually wild for me to. My brain's like processing it right now, and it's like it's crazy. Like, yeah, well, yeah. Okay, I won't talk way too much, but that's just wild, man. But I wanna hear your recollection of waking up. Like, okay, now they're waking you up. When someone comes out of a coma, what do they see? Do they see like lights? What do they see? Like how was it?
I was in a dark ICU room, and I was just in bed, and I was just like, it's like I just like, it was like a restart, like, you know, like when you die in a video game and then you restart fresh, right? Mm-hmm. But my brain was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I bet.
Where am I?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I was like, what? Because, like, you know, your eyes like open, like, you know how like you open your eyes when you wake up from bed or whatever, right? But you know where you are. In this case, I was like, where the fuck am I? Mm-hmm. I'm tripping out, right?
So,
and I'm like,
when you I've done like extended sleep periods, like 12 hours of my life. You know, everyone's done that.
Yeah.
Do you feel so? If I sleep for 12 hours, I wake up more tired than I am when I slept for like 8 hours, because I overslept. Right now, you've overslept, really overslept. When you woke up, were you like, you said you restarted from a video game, right? So, were you fresh, as in like I'm not tired at all, or were you like woken up and like feeling an oversleeping kind of feeling?
I would say that, like, I wasn't energetic, but I wasn't super, super tired, right? Like, mind you, I was intubated and they're breathing for me, right? So, and I was being fed, right? So I think, like, you know, my energy levels was pretty mute. Like, it was fine, right? But I think doing things as I was physically moving, starting to move more, was easily making me tired, because I didn't have the strength to do it anymore, right? Because I lost all that muscle mass.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you have time? Because I want to ask some more things.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. So this is more for like this is not fighting related, okay? This is more like
sure.
You're in you got hit by a car, you got hit by a truck, you got a work accident, whatever, and you're in the hospital, and you lost muscle mass. Now the recovery of that, right?
Yeah.
You are trained for this kind of thing. So when you're recovering, right, what are some things that really worked for you, apart from like pretty nurses coming in to motivate you?
For sure. I think, well, I mean, number one is mindset, right? I think when I was in there, there was a point where I was still in ICU, and no one told me anything, right? I wasn't going to recovery ward. I didn't know what was going on. They're doing tests, and no one's talking to me. Mind you, a lot of nurses are really rude, right? So they're tired, you know, like they're very short with you, right? And you know, I can't really. Anytime I ask a question, I guess they're not really allowed to tell you anything, because they don't know if you're gonna live or not, right? They don't know. Right? And, like, you know, they don't know the exact conditions or whichever, right? And that made me feel like unwanted, and made me feel like it was kind of crazy, right? So it was really sad for me, right? And I felt like a child, like, honestly, like, no one's paying attention to me. Like, everyone's doing all these things and ignoring me. Like, this sucks, right?
Mm.
I just wanted to, and like all I wanted to do was talk to my mom, and no one's letting me talk to my family, right? But I'm in ICU. I get it. They have a job to do, right? And then at one point, I was convinced I was gonna die. I was like, okay, I'm gonna die. Like this is it, right? And and I just snapped out of it. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with me? I'm not gonna die, right? And then I just started shadow boxing in my head,
Mm.
right? And that, honestly, that mindset is probably one of the things that like really saved me, right? It saved me from like going insane, saved me from like breaking down, saved me from giving up, right? Was just having that fighter mentality
Mm-hmm.
of being like, you know what, like
I
we're
get
gonna
it. Yeah.
fight our way out of this. Even though I couldn't physically move, right? I was like, all right, I just started shadow boxing my head. Shadow
Mm-hmm.
box.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll fight our way out of this.
That brings me
And
to
like that, it builds, right?
Mhm.
And it snowballs into this, okay, we got through this. And then they told me like, oh hey, congratulations, you're going to the recovery ward. And that's what got me into, starting to physically get on my bed, physically doing push-ups on the wall, shadow boxing physically, right?
Mhm.
And then my physio nurse is like, doctor, we got to get this guy out of the hospital. And I got out of the hospital within 8 days.
Oh wow, that's like super quick, man.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what resonated a lot with me is the internal fight.
Yeah.
Everyone's gone. Maybe not everybody, but if you're fortunate, you didn't have to go through it, or maybe if you're unfortunate, I don't know. It's a good thing to, in hindsight, right? That struggle that you went through, was good because now you're like 10 times more better than you were before because you had to you won, right?
100%.
Some not everyone's as fortunate. Sometimes people succumb to it. For me, I during my time when I was struggling, I thought I was going nuts, but it actually worked really well. I spoke to myself a lot. I don't know why. In the mirror, like I learned to be really honest with myself, like no BS. People say like you can do anything. Yeah, not anything. You still got to be honest with your abilities. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna be a pilot flying a rocket or something like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to be honest with my strengths and weaknesses. Evaluate it. What am I gonna do to improve these things? And like get up, fight it, right? And you said that it was a big battle for you to overcome that. In that moment where you were like, I'm gonna die, I gotta get out of this. What was the main tell me how your brain went through that process to overcome that. Like how'd you overcome when you have like the bitch and the general? Kind of like one person's talking like, don't do it, you're gonna die, and one person's like, do it, man. You're like, how did that transpire in your head?
I mean, like, all of this, my life up until this point is a snowball from that moment, right? And if we're going to start there, right, where it switched was because I said I wasn't done. Right? I'm not like, I'm like, how am I talking about? Like, there's so much of life to live. Like, I'm not going to just give up and be like, because there's so many things I want to do, right? So first off, I was thankful. I prayed, I was grateful for all the things that I already have. But then also to that, I'm like, all right, what are we doing? What are we doing to get ourselves through this, right? And with the power of prayer and just believing in yourself and just having that focus, things happen. Doctor came in, he's like, all right, going to move you forward. And that obviously got me to, the recovery ward, all that, and then led me to make better decisions, coming out. Of course, I went through my divorce, whatnot, but then as though, the road is never up like this, right? It's always
yes
up and down, right? And so as these things were happening, right, I asked myself, I'm like, okay, the only thing I asked myself, what do I really want to do? I wanted to fight. Why? Because like as men, sometimes you just want to feel alive, right? You want to prove to yourself, right? And it was it February 2023 or no February 2024 that I got called to fight RJ, and that was a 15-day notice. That was a hell of a fight, and I took it simply because I wanted to do these things, right? I was like, you know what? This year, all year, I'm hold myself accountable. I'm just gonna keep fighting, and I kept fighting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like 'cause when you're in there, you have no choice,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have to make a decision, right? You can't hum and haw. You can't be like, you can't be stuck within your feelings. Like, no, like you gotta. It's mano a mano.
Mm-hmm. So we're 43 minutes in. I think I need about 15 more minutes. Do we have 15 minutes left?
Yeah, yeah.
I want to dig into another.
What I'll say to that, what I love about fighting, John, is that like it's more than winning, more than like, you know, fighting the other person, right? Every fight, every hit, every movement it's self-validation, right? Right? Because I know beyond this, like win or lose, you know, we're all gonna go home at the end of the day. But I am proud of myself to the point that I got myself to this point. I stepped in there. I, you know, put out my best, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I can live with. And the fact that I gave myself that ability to do so rather than die back in that hospital.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So
Yeah.
I want to go back just a little bit. You talked about life being like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
I can relate to this because I grew up in the ghetto, really poor, like super poor. You know, Vietnam War, all that stuff. Came here as a refugee and all that stuff. Super poor. You know where Jenny Finch is in Toronto? It's a ghetto. It's the ghetto of Toronto.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and you're from Winnipeg, so you know the ghetto too. So basically, life was good but poor, and then I went to university. I got a really good job. For the next like 15 years, I had an amazing life. Like I climbed the corporate ladder, and that's
Nice.
my climb, right? And then I did some changes in my life. In hindsight, it's probably a bad change, but as a young person, I thought it was a good change. And then I went through a big struggle arc. Like the arc of struggling was I went through a big fall, right? Like you were saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when I learned that losing is much harder than winning. Winning is easy. It's losing that's hard. Because after you lose, you got to go through a redemption arc. And because I had like over a decade of like easy streak, I guess, because you're just working in an office, is like me. It took a while to bring the dog back out of me, right?
Yeah.
But now that when it came back, it became like I'm a way stronger person. Nothing can really take me down. I can battle myself in my brain easily. Like I'm gonna say I'm so much happier who I am now, although I went through that arc and all that stuff, than I am before, right? Because now
Awesome.
and I think that's the same for you. That's why I'm saying this, because I think for you, now that you overcome all that, the next struggle, unless it's as bad as that, will be easy streak.
That's right.
I think that's why struggling is good, because you have a comparison of what rock bottom is. And you're like, this isn't rock bottom. That was rock bottom, kind of thing. You know, it's all relative.
Yeah.
And definitely, there's always climbs. And now that I'm aware of the up and downs, when it's up, like right now, my life is up. I'm enjoying it because it can go down quick. Going down is easy. It goes quick, right?
Yeah.
So, that being said, not with your struggles of up and down, right? How do you keep yourself afloat? Like what mentally? What are some exercises you do in your head? What do you tell yourself? Like, tell me about that.
Yeah, for sure. So, who I am today is a very different person than who I was like 3 years ago, right? You know, my habits are a lot different. You know, I read a lot more. But yeah, I think now, alongside being more humble, I keep myself a lot more accountable to myself. And that means, you know, like as example, like through my arc of trying to better myself and like, because like I lost my identity in that process, right? My wife leaving and just like going through COVID and whatnot, like all that, like I really was a lost person, and no one really wanted to talk to me because like there wasn't really much to talk to me about because I was just drowning in like thoroughness, right? You don't want to talk to somebody who's sad like that, right? So the things I do now is that like I dedicate time, I organize my time for reflection. I organize time for therapy, and specifically, and therapy isn't always like has to be such things of like, oh, that you're sad about, right? I before, like, in a Filipino culture, they always shoot down about like, oh, therapy is such a bad thing, right? Like, if you need to go to therapy, oh, like, but Filipino shame, like Asian shaming, right? Like, why do you need to go to the doctor, stuff like that, right? Like, but knowing now, I'm like, I try to explain to my parents, like, maybe you guys need therapy, like, but anyway, moving back to my point here, I try to do things to reflect on myself. So, for example, I have a library of books here that there are a lot of self-development books. One of my favorite ones is Hard Times Create Strong Men by Stefano Arano. And he's actually an author, rest in peace, from Winnipeg. And, it talks about how, men today don't exemplify who our grandfathers were. David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me. That book was great. It was super inspiring. And it definitely, his story of literally going from over 360 pounds to having no excuse and running like 100 miles in like 24 hours, like, it's crazy, right? He was like pissing out blood. So, there's a lot of these things that, mind you, I'm not to that extent, right? But it just shows you what the human body is capable of and what you can be to define yourself as a man. And I truly believe as men need purpose in life, right? And without struggle, we won't serve any purpose, right? We need to understand struggle. Otherwise, you're just a weak, nice guy.
Yes, that resonates with me so well. And I'm 10 years older than you, roughly.
Sure.
I think in my 10 years that I've learned, what really has worked for me, everything's my fault. Like, there's no excuses. It doesn't matter what happens in life. It's my fault. If, like, my kids get into a fight at school, it's my fault. If, I don't know, anything happens, it's always my fault. If I'm hosting a party, someone gets into a fight, something happens, it's my fault. Everything boils to me.
Yep.
Because a lot of things can be preventable if you put some controls in place to prevent it.
That's right.
End of the day, it doesn't matter if you didn't see it. If you didn't see it, it's just your own damn fault. You were stupid, you didn't see it. That's it. Next time, see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Put some security, whatever.
I own a pit bull, right? I own a pit bull, and there's always the stigma against pit bulls. My dad tells me, he's like, oh, I want to walk your dog, right? And I said, Dad, I love that you want to walk my dog, right? But understand that, like, in your condition, you're not exactly the best person to walk him, right? And if anything happens, right, it's automatically my fault, right? Like, I know my dog is sweet and he'll cuddle anybody, but he's still a pit bull, right? And if something happens, right, my dog kills your dog or my dog bites your kid for whatever reason, my fault, and then my dog died.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so, I have to, and so that's why I love my dog. Like, he's a constant reminder of how responsible that I need to be, and how present I need to be around everyone, right? So.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Yeah, I love that we talked about this because I think it's important to talk about it. Hope a lot of people hear about it. Anyone that hears about it, I hope you guys get some feedback and like it helps you out because men, especially Asian men, they hate talking about this stuff. They like to just, like you said, there's a stigma around it. They just kind of bottle it in. It is effective, but maybe not so much internally for yourself because the guy's struggling. I don't know. I'm guilty of that too, but for my personality, it's kind of worked for my scenario. But I don't think it's healthy, but it does work for me just because I've grown up relying on myself because it's just the way it was for me. But
well, I really think that's why the sport is so relatable, and that's why a lot of men love it, and that's why a lot of guys respect each other for it. Is because they live through us, they live vicariously through us.
Yeah.
Right. How many of my friends message me, be like, man, like, it's like, man, I love that you get in there let you do what you do, and then it inspired me to, you know, go work out and do this or do something new, and it's giving them the courage to do so. I love that. You know, that's the reason why I fight. Like, I love that.
Yeah, and that's
You
the
know,
reason
I
why.
love inspiring them.
That's why I do this channel, right? It's not for money and all that stuff. It's more I respect the fighters' fight in them, and every fighter has a story. No one's fighting because they want to get muscles. Let's just say, okay, like it's not that's not the case usually. It's more, there's more to it, and I think the story needs to be told more. I think the Canadian stage should be bigger. I'm trying to make it bigger. I don't know. I'm probably failing at it. I'm not doing the best I should, but I think whoever goes after me might do better. But someone has to start somewhere. So currently, I think I'm doing it the best, but it's not the best in the world. Hopefully, in the future, I can keep going and get better. You know, get it bigger and stuff like that. So I really appreciate guys like you coming on, telling the story, and, you know, fighting and stuff like that. Because I'm not a fighter. I'm like way past that in my life. Yeah, so I really appreciate your time, man.
Thank you.
Your fight is in 2 weeks. It's not much time, so you're gonna, like you said, you're just gonna keep going, working on all that stuff. Is there anyone you want to thank or any closing comments you want to put? Any messages for your opponent?
I want to give shout out to my local sponsors, Sweet Success Protein Donuts. Give them a shout out. Also, RPH Painting, Micro Cement, back out here, did my wall, and yeah, guys, thank you so much. And Brandon, I'm ready for you, bro.
All right, man. Dude, it's great talking to you. I'm going to post it, put some highlights, and promote it, right? I'm going to see you in the fight, too. I'll be at the weigh-ins. I'll be at the fight. I'm going to record your fight. We're going to review it afterwards, all right?
Thank you.
All right, buddy. Great meeting you. I'll see you in 2 weeks, okay?
All right.
Take it easy, man.
Brother.
Bye.
See you.